Why was Ghislaine Maxwell allowed to live?
Yeah, that's interesting. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a double agent with the Soviet Union, British MI5, and he did some work with the CIA, and he was a gun runner. Uh, and uh, and Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, Robert Maxwell was very connected to Israeli Mossad intelligence, and she was his daughter. It makes you wonder if some deal was brokered between U.S. intelligence and the Mossad. Nah, don't kill her because she was probably providing information to the Mossad. That's how these things work. Just leave her in a kind of a nice light jail for a while, and she'll probably get out under parole eventually. But she could have been left alive because of that connection to Mossad, and Mossad had brokered a deal with the CIA. I mean, that's the kind of thing they do.
She keeps popping up in photos with very powerful people. Most recently, I don't know how closely you follow Canadian politics, but our prime minister, of course, has resigned. He's stepping down as Liberal leader, and his heir apparent, it would seem, was the former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, Mark Carney, whose sister-in-law in England every year hosts this huge lavish party on the lawn of her estate. I think the money goes to environmental causes and so forth. There we saw Ghislaine Maxwell. This was a photo from 2008, pictured with none other than Mark Carney. He's saying, we're not friends. I really don't know her. She was my sister-in-law's friends, or my sister's friend or something. Sister-in-law, sorry. What can you tell us about, if anything, about this character, Mark Carney, who is, on the board with the World Economic Forum as well?
Mark Carney's a globalist. He's one of these elites that are trying to run the global show, of course. And I'm sure he does know Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm sure he is connected to at least one, maybe two intelligence agencies. This is the kind of elite that everybody's wondering who's pulling the strings on all this. Well, it's people at that level. And the reason we see such perversion, accepted perversion in these DEI initiatives and things is these elites, many of them are perverted themselves and are pushing this down into transgender surgeries and other things. So this is the elite, that the CIA itself being the elite in the upper 20% are directly connected to, and they are pushing for global currency and global government with the CIA.
You mentioned methods of taking whistleblowers out and so forth by the CIA and the deep state, and you mentioned plane crashes. Is it beyond the pale to suggest that they would also not just take down a single seater or a small Cessna plane to kill somebody? Would they take down an entire airliner to take out one or two people and use the other civilian deaths as cover?
Let me put it this way. 500,000 Iraqi civilians were killed based on false CIA intelligence. They didn't care. 450,000 Indonesians were killed because of a failed CIA coup there. They didn't care. The CIA at those upper levels do not care about human life. They care about their operations. Would they bring down an entire plane for two threats on board against their secrecy? Yes, they would.
Are there any famous air disasters that come to mind that you suspect were engineered by the CIA?
Well, let me just throw this out there. In the book, we make the solid case that the person that tried to erase me, Alvin Buzzy Krongard, George Tenet's executive officer at the CIA, was in charge of Alex Brown's and Sons Bank, a very corrupt bank that was doing secret deals with overseas bank accounts for secret clients and customers. And Buzzy Krongard claims he went over to work for Tenet at the CIA just out of patriotism, and he was making $1 an hour or something like that. Well, that's ridiculous. Buzzy Krongard, Alex Brown's and Sons, just days before the planes hit the buildings in 9/11, Buzzy Krongard, Alex Brown Sons, and Deutsche Bank did a short sell of all their stock. It's called a put option, where they sold it at just ridiculously low prices as if they knew something was coming. The 9/11 report didn't even address that in the report itself. It said that they just verified that there was no Al Qaeda investments involved in this. And then down in the footnote, it has Buzzy Krongard and Alex Brown's and Sons did profit from their stock in the airlines that hit the buildings when it crashed because of their put options. So, it's hard for people to cross that mental line that our government will do these kind of horrific things, but they do. And these things are proven and they're factual. And that's why we're at where we are now. I'm writing up a proposal now for the complete restructuring of the CIA, as I mentioned earlier, and the removal of its covert operational authority and the authority of secrecy. It's got to stop because, yes, they do these things, and they will continue to do these things because that's who they are.
Um, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier during the discussion about RFK and his assassination in
Mhm.
1968, and how the long arm of the deep state and the CIA reaching into local police departments and having
Yes,
them destroy
yes,
evidence and so forth. All those acoustic tiles, from the kitchen or the pantry rather at the Ambassador Hotel suddenly went missing and so
mhm,
forth.
yeah.
But to bring that up to present day, and the P Diddy scandal, and he's sitting in prison again. Very similar, it sounds like, to the Epstein. He was throwing these parties. Everybody went to these. Everybody who's anybody in Hollywood and the music industry were seen at these parties, photographed at these parties. It does sound like another sort of honey trap. But there's been allegations that, again, just allegations. P Diddy murdered somebody in plain sight of this witness who's now talking about it, and basically said that the LAPD has a unit in there that their one of the responsibilities is just to run cover for P Diddy, and they're sort of the cleanup team for P Diddy. Do you know anything about that?
I know this. I know that the LAPD has direct connections with the CIA and their operations, so-called terror operations, and the CIA trains the LAPD in spycraft. I do know that. I haven't seen anything yet, and I'm not saying it's not going to come. I haven't seen anything yet that Diddy was a CIA asset, but I can tell you that the LAPD is the CIA is all the way in their pocket.
Is the CIA interested in the music industry, specifically, let's say, rap, hip hop?
Well, yeah, music is a powerful propaganda tool. It's a powerful mind control tool. And that's, of course, as we discussed earlier, is what the CIA is all about, propaganda and mind control. So yes, they will be in the music industry. And not just that, of course, but Hollywood. And there's much evidence for Hollywood also. But yeah, anything that is propaganda and can affect Americans' thinking, especially in elections or any other foreign policy, the CIA is there.
In the book, you talk about transparency and how it can kill the deep state, but with so many layers of secrecy and control, do you think we've reached maybe now with AI added tools? Do you think we've reached a tipping point where maybe achieving this transparency is no longer possible? Is it too late?
We're very close to that. That's why we need to act now. And that's why the Trump administration so far is very encouraging, because if that hadn't happened, we were done for. The CIA and its complex is so powerful, so well funded in secret budgets, penetrated Congress and the Senate and the intelligence committees. They have so much control over Washington. It's mind boggling. And so in the book, I give 12 steps on reforming the CI, and I have some others that I'm writing up now. And we go through it. It comes down to congressmen and senators who've been bought and paid by the CIA. There's 6 senators, I think, congressmen, senators that have stock in Lockheed Martin, the CIA's spying arm. And that's how corrupt it is and connected to the agency, Congress. And I've seen a congressman lie through his teeth about the CI once, and when I spoke with him. Anyway, so it comes down to Congress. They have got to demand reform of the CIA, restructuring, and take the National Clandestine Service out of the CIA and make it its own separate agency. But only Congress can do that, and Congress is in the CIA's pocket. So the last main point, and you can see behind me here, there's a picture of an avalanche that I keep there.
Mhm.
The last point is there has got to be an avalanche of we the people, public demand, demanding reform of the CIA, strict, hard reform of the CIA, retaining the good parts like the Director of Intelligence and others, but getting rid of its unchecked power of secrecy. It has to be us, as has always been. It has to be us demanding that of our congressmen and our senators And if they don't do it because they're in the CIA's pocket, then we need to vote them out. We need to fire them. That's the only way. But it has to start with us. It has to start with every person realizing, number one, do not fear the CIA. I talk to people all the time. Well, I'm afraid to even speak out against the CIA. I'm like, that's how they have you. Remember that famous quote from Thomas Jefferson? I end a lot of my speeches with this. When people fear their government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there's liberty. They need to fear us. They need to fear me. They need to fear you. They need to fear all of us because we're coming for them, you know. Last thing I'll say on this, a recent well-known author, a friend of mine, was doing a program called Politics and Faith, and he was visited by two agents at his house saying, "Stop your program, or you will be arrested." He'd been, I guess, talking about Julian Assange or something, and we were going to do an interview, and he stopped. He said, "I can't do this. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of what they'll do to me." And I said, "Man, that's the point. Number one, they legally and constitutionally can't do this, but they're trying to scare you to shut you up." And I come across people all the time that, well, you know, I'd love to come out and support this movement, but I'm afraid the CIA is going to come after me. That's our problem. No, they're not. Now, yeah, they've come after me. I'm kind of the sacrificial lamb at the festival, you know. But that's what I believe I'm supposed to do. But other people don't have that kind of risk. And they need to understand they don't have that kind of risk. And what I would encourage people to do in terms of this transparency, if they do stand up for CI reform and they receive any threats, intimidation, phone call, whatever, go public. I learned that from the beginning after they painted the chemical on my ceiling and broke into my house when I was trying to play by their rules. No, 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 no. You go public. 100%. Everything the CIA does to me, I put it out there in public. Everything the CIA does to someone else, I put it out there in public. If the CIA messes with an American citizen, contact me or put it out in public. That's how we're going to do it. And really, and of course, in a democracy, that's the only way. Yes, I believe that can be done with the new administration coming in. Goodness gracious, I mean, it's more likely than in our history that it can be done. But it's up to us.
Just very quickly, your thoughts on Donald Trump's nominee for head of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, who held the position of Director of National Intelligence during, the first couple of years, I think, of the Biden administration. And of course, that position, DNI, or Director, rather, of National Intelligence, the nominee there is Tulsi Gabbard. So maybe talk about a few words about John Ratcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard and hopefully their new positions.
Yeah, yes. And first of all, the creation of the Director of National Intelligence was an attempt to take the power of centrality away from the CIA. It did not. It was just a restructuring of an org chart. The CIA is still the power that it was before. In terms of John Ratcliffe, I think he's a good choice. There's going to be some challenges I'll talk about in a second. I think he's going to be a good choice. He was DNI for 6 months, so he's got a little experience there. I understand he was a very good, solid conservative congressman. And he was the only intelligence official that stood up to defend Donald Trump against the Russia collusion hoax, which was a CIA attempt to remove Donald Trump. And I proved that in one of my videos. So he's a very good choice. Problem is, they are going to keep information from him. This upper 20% I'm talking about are so powerful. They're there for 20, 35 years. Ratcliffe may just be there for 4 years. They can wait him out, and they probably will wait him out. What I advise humbly is that he needs to get himself a deputy director from the outside, not the inside, that can have his back. And the president and the new National Security Council has to have his back, because without a doubt, even James Woolsey, former DCI, I served under him when he came out, said, even though he was DCI, the director of operations told him nothing. They kept everything from him. That's what they do. That's how they've gotten away with this for so long. So Ratcliffe, of any of these people, with the exception maybe of Kash Patel, has got the biggest, most dangerous, broad-ranging job of any cabinet level official. He is going in to try to reform a monster. And can he do it? Only with a lot of support. And it is going to take time to reform that place and split it open and get down into the onion past the compartmental level of secrecy that they've been using to conceal these things, and to get down where the skeletons are and expose them. And really, I'm doing a program right now on a real legitimate CIA felonious conspiracy, and I'm laying out how the CIA conspired to commit multiple felonies. I'll be putting that program out probably next week. But get down to things like that, where the CIA has actually engaged in criminal activity and multiple felonies, and charge those people, indict them, and charge them. That's a noble goal, and it's a huge goal. But that's what Ratcliffe is facing. So he's got to have the whole administration behind him. Can he pull it off? No one has been able to date. But this is different. There's a new sheriff in town.